All right. Howdy doody, everybody. Well, howdy doody. Who says that anymore? Welcome to the Hiking My Feelings virtual campfire. My name is Sydney Williams, and tonight I'm going to be sharing a little bit about this book, this campfire. I'm going to be spending some time with some great guests that we have tonight. So on deck tonight, we have Anastasia Allison. She is the founder of Kula Cloth, which is one of the things that's included in our VIP kit here. So she's going to tell us all about it. I heard a rumor she's going to show us the first one she ever tried to make, so that's going to be awesome. She's also a violinist for a group called the Musical Mountaineers, so we're lucky enough to have her sharing 2 songs with us tonight, and the first one's going to be coming up here in a few minutes, so don't go anywhere. We also have Jenna Celmer here. She used to do some pretty dope stuff, like literal anti-doping, with the U.S. Olympic Committee and some other major league organizations, and now she is just crushing it at Gear Monk. So we're going to be talking about what it's like to blaze your own trail in the outdoor industry. Anastasia as a product inventor, myself as a nonprofit founder, and Jenna as somebody who's just absolutely crushing it and helping people find jobs in the outdoor industry. We also have Gabaccia here tonight. She is a wonderful human that I met in Montana last year and then had the pleasure of hiking with when we were in New Mexico towards the end of the tour. And she is all about exploring responsibly. So we're going to be talking about what that looks like as well. So one of the things I wanted to do tonight is share a little update. So here are some of the resources for the Black Lives Matter movement. I've been sharing over the course of the campfire this week that this first link, Love and Support for Leslie. Leslie was a peaceful is a peaceful protester who was shot in the face, point blank range with a rubber bullet at the protests in La Mesa a few nights ago. And she's currently still in the ICU. There haven't been any updates made to the GoFundMe, so I'm not sure of her status, but last we heard she was out of the coma and responding to some commands. So if you want to drop some support for Leslie, that's the first link. And then we have the George Floyd Memorial Fund, Black Lives Matter, the Movement for Black Lives, the National Bailout Fund, the San Diego Bailout Fund, the Bail Project, NAACP Legal Fund, Fair Fight, the ACLU, and the Minnesota Freedom Fund. So tonight, in honor of all the people, not just the handful of ones that have been taken from us too soon in the last few days and weeks, but the hundreds, if not thousands of people that have been killed in the name of state-sanctioned violence and police brutality. Anastasia Allison of the Musical Mountaineers is going to play a song for us. So Anastasia, join us, tell us a little bit about what you're playing, and we'll hear it out.
Yeah, I was just going to play one of my favorite pieces to play is Alleluia. It's just a really nice meditative piece, and I think it probably in some way captures how a lot of us are feeling right now. So I hope wherever you are, that it helps you connect to the meaning behind these resources more deeply.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh, of course.
All right. So, yes, if you have funds to spare, please send some of those in that direction. That is going to make everybody a little bit happier, healthier, and make the world a bit of a better place. So, some other updates here. We shared last night that we are close to $8,000 raised so far for the Hiking My Feelings Wilderness Wellness Center. So, to share a little bit about that, I want to show you what we're working on here. We got our renderings from the architects that we're working with at Story Architecture. They're a local firm here in San Diego. And the first phase of construction, which is what we're raising money for during this event, is shown here on the screen. So we have a 32-foot by 32-foot deck, and then a 24-foot geodesic dome, which serves as the community center for all things Hiking My Feelings. So that's where we'll host our online programming, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a second because we didn't get to it last night. That's also where we will have our base camp for all of our retreats, workshops, day hikes, backpacking trips, everything that happens here at the Reggae Ranch and at the Wilderness Wellness Center is going to be housed out of there. And you can see that there's room for tents for folks to come and stay overnight. So we're really excited about that. And another little tidbit here that we didn't get to last night. This is Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love. This is a program that I have wanted to do. Gosh, I think I first started thinking about something along these lines back in 2011, and then in 2014, and then in 2015, I wrote in my journal during a personal growth course that I wanted to host wilderness wellness events with some community support before, during, and after a big backpacking trip. I hadn't even been backpacking then, but I was like kind of high on the thought of doing the PCT. So I thought maybe that could like help me get there. So Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love, our adventure begins on June 28th. It's a 12-week course that includes guided self-discovery exercises, community support in the form of family meetings every week. And this is not like your family meeting where you get in trouble and we talk about how we're taking Fido to the farm, or you're grounded, or you need to do your chores. This is what a family meeting should have been while we were growing up, which is a safe space to explore how we're feeling, what we're experiencing in a place free of judgment. So 12 weeks of online support, guided self-discovery as far as personal growth goes, tying in some of the themes from the book so you can integrate those into your everyday life in all areas of your life. We also include a hiking training progression. So whether you've ever hiked ever, if you've never set foot on a trail, or if you're a professional backpacker, we have a training progression that will help you get to where you want to go for your hiking goals. So if you've never been before and you're wondering like, how do I get started? This is where you want to be. The goal is to get you up to hiking several miles in a day. So when you come out to here, to the Wilderness Wellness Center, the hiking part is manageable, if not downright enjoyable. So Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love is $99. We start on June 28th. You can also break that into 3 payments of $33. It's available. You can register at the website, hikingmyfeelings.org/BYOT, which stands for Blaze Your Own Trail. And we also have 5 scholarship slots available for this course. As we get more grants and as we raise more money, we're a very new organization, so there's not a lot that we can do by means of subsidizing pricing at this time. But as we do, then we'll be able to do that. But I've decided that we can definitely fit at least 5 people. So if you're affected by COVID-19, if you just don't have the money, but you want to participate in our course, send us an email. All of that information is on the website as well. We're also open to people who have skills to barter or trade. So if money is not an option, that doesn't matter. We're all about an energy exchange here. So if you want to join us and you don't have the dollars, let us know and we will get you hooked up. So Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love. We'll talk a little bit about that more towards the end because we have a lot of people that are already signed up for the course that are in the Zoom meeting. So if they want to share a little bit about why they signed up, what they're excited about, then you can hear it from people other than me. So that is Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love. What I'm going to do now is jump into this book. So if you were here last night, then you know that we were talking about, I don't know, what's it like to be a chief marketing officer? I'm about to find out. So tonight I'm reading chapter 9. It's called The Beginning of the End. If you're reading along with us at home, we start on page 115. And if you don't like listening or watching me, if you don't like watching me read, you can always take a look at what Catherine's got going on. She has been writing out all of the mantras for each chapter to give us a little bit of visual inspiration during these uncertain times. So tonight's mantra is I make valuable contributions to myself, my community, and the world around me. So Catherine's over here making that beautiful statement for all of us to see. And last night, where did we leave off? I was getting ready to be dropped off at WeWork in downtown San Diego for my first day on the job as a chief marketing officer of my friend's startup. So here we go. Page 115 if you're following along in a hard copy. Chapter 9, The Beginning of the End. After Barry dropped me off downtown, I went to Starbucks across the street. Usually, when I go to Starbucks, they get my name wrong. 9 times out of 10, I get my cup and it says Cindy on it. This day, they got my name right. A sign of good things to come, I thought to myself. I sat outside the building at a table and enjoyed my latte and breakfast wrap. This is the first day of the rest of my life, I thought. I opened up my banking app and took a screenshot of my bank balance. My business partner told me that we were on track to hit $1 million in revenue this year. While I knew that wouldn't automatically make me a millionaire, I wanted to remember what life was like before I made my first $1 million, whenever that was. The CEO of the startup, Molly, texted me to let me know that she would be there shortly. She was looking for parking. I connected with her in an online program for female entrepreneurs. The women participating were from all over the country, and Molly was in San Diego. Our career paths were remarkably similar. Went to college, did internships, started working in PR. She started her career in DC, and I started mine in Chicago. She was working at a boutique agency in San Diego when we went through this program, and I had just started my skydiving event business, Planet Green Socks. We connected immediately. She was also a Spitfire who didn't pull any punches when it came to voicing her opinions. With blonde hair and piercing blue eyes, combined with her firecracker personality, Molly turned heads everywhere she went. We had been chatting online and participating in the group calls for the program for nearly 6 months before we finally met in person. A bunch of women who went through the program were gathering for an in-person retreat, and the venue was a quick 15-minute drive from where I lived. I was so excited to meet these women, Molly in particular. That retreat was a whirlwind, but I knew she and I would stay connected after the event. We were seated next to each other during one of the retreat sessions, taking notes, making light of all the flowery woo-woo language that the speakers were using. It felt so fake and forced, we both just rolled our eyes and laughed. This retreat occurred on the 1-year anniversary of Adam's death. I was so fed up with the presenter on this particular session, I almost walked out in the middle of it, but I stuck it out. After she was done talking, I went out to the garden to sit underneath the trees. I needed some space. The following session was all about marketing, so I passed. I didn't need someone to tell me the basics of how to build a website or why you should definitely always try to be building your email list. Instead of sitting through another session full of information I already knew, I spent my time under the trees, thinking about Adam. As if on cue, the winds kicked up and swirled around me. The whole experience was overwhelming. It felt like Adam was sitting on the bench next to me. I started this online program after my first event for my company, and the last event I coordinated was Adam's memorial. After we released his ashes above the sky at the drop zone we were training out with our respective teams, I had no desire to be involved in skydiving ever again. I knew I wouldn't jump again, and if I had my way about it, I'd never set foot on another drop zone. After I collected my thoughts and wiped the tears from my eyes, I made my way back upstairs to the room I was staying in. Not long after I lay down on the bed, Molly came in. "You would not believe the bullshit they're talking about down there," she said. She turned on her ballad girl voice. "Did you know that you should totally have your opt-in happen above the fold on your website because that's where people can see it?" She said, mocking the speaker. It was exactly what I needed to take my mind off of Adam. She sat down on the bed and asked me how I was doing. She knew that this was Adam's anniversary. I told her about my experience under the trees, how I started this program wanting to build out this company and tour the USA hosting badass events, and how since Adam's memorial event, I hadn't really felt the fire for anything, really. If you kill Planet Green Socks, you aren't killing Adam. He's already dead, Molly said. It felt like another release. Who was this beautiful angel? How did she know exactly what I needed to hear? How did she know that I was ready to be all the way done with Planet Green Socks, but was feeling shame around the decision? I started crying again. She held me and told me everything would be okay. I believed her. Back in front of WeWork, I stood up excitedly to greet Molly. I showed her my Starbucks cup, laughing about how they got my name right. So today was the best day, and we hadn't even begun to save the world together yet. I felt warm all over. I finally made it. She was one of the cool kids, and she liked me enough to be friends and hire me. My middle school self was stoked. We made our way upstairs, got a quick rundown of everything that was available to us as members of this co-working space, and received our welcome materials. Behind us was a kitchen, complete with kombucha on tap. We filled our cups and made our way to the lobby to catch an elevator. The lighting in the lobby was bright purple, and we joked about how even the lighting was on brand for us here. As we wandered around the different floors and explored the office space that was available, we talked about expansion plans and how WeWork could definitely accommodate any growth, at least for the first few years. We arrived on the highest floor available to us, picked out a booth, dropped off our stuff, and took a lap around the floor. There were corner offices available, some with views of the bay. When I was in my first agency job, I remember telling a friend that within 10 years, I'd be running my own team in an office in San Diego with views of the bay. I don't know why I said San Diego. I had never even visited the city. I hadn't even gone skydiving yet, so my path to get out to California was unclear. When I said that, I surprised myself because it sounded so outlandish for an entry-level agency employee to be spouting off about leading teams, let alone doing it on the other side of the country in a city she'd never been to. Holy shit, I made it. Maybe I'm psychic, I thought to myself as we had made our way back to the common area where we had dropped off our stuff. There was no real orientation necessary here. I had been helping Molly with her marketing and branding off and on for the year leading up to accepting the offer to join the team full time. Our first order of business was to launch our seed round of venture capital fundraising. This was my first task, raise $1 million. I had never done venture fundraising before, but I did all the research I possibly could. The cool thing about how we were launching this round was that we were doing it with a platform called Seed Invest. The fact that Molly had been accepted into the platform was one of the reasons I was keen to join the team so early. This platform allowed everyday folks to invest in the company, not just established investors. We could offer our friends and family the opportunity to invest in the company Shark Tank style without spending Shark Tank money. Neither one of us came from money, so to be able to bring this opportunity to our communities was intoxicating. I felt like Lisa Kudrow in Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, where she starts talking about how she's a very serious businesswoman. And since our friends and family weren't rolling in it yet, we were pleased to know that Seed Invest had a network of tons of investors that we'd have access to on the platform. They had a checklist for us to help us navigate what we should do to get the word out about the round and what we should do to execute the round itself. I came armed and ready with a marketing plan that would let folks know what we were up to, a fully integrated program that spanned across email, social media, friends and family, press outreach, and a few tricks up my sleeve that I was excited to share with her. The plan was to launch this round as soon as we could, as we needed to raise $175,000 to keep what we raised. Otherwise, it would all be returned to the investors at the end of the campaign. We submitted all of our plans and paperwork for approval, and the marketing plan was approved, but they needed some more information on revenue, statistics, and projections. We finally got all of our ducks in a row, and a few weeks later, we were scheduled to start fundraising on International Women's Day. Given that our company was a skincare line that was also all about empowering women in social justice, it felt like fate. I genuinely believed we were ready to go. As we discussed where everything was going and who was responsible for what, it was blatantly obvious to me that it was going to be a while before I got to the marketing part of my job. I was a full-time fundraiser, production assistant, supply chain manager, errand runner, CEO supporter, and then at the bottom of the list of the hats that I'd be wearing was why I was actually here, to market this product and make sure as many people get it as possible. I knew I'd be responsible for a lot of tasks outside of marketing, but this was feeling more like a co-founder role to me. It felt risky to ask for what I wanted so early in our working relationship, but I'd never know unless I tried. I told Molly that I was super excited to be here, and I had no problem wearing multiple hats, but I needed something more. I wanted to have more skin in the game. I asked if I could be considered a co-founder, and she said yes, and that we'd talk about what equity changes and salary changes needed to be made after we got through the fundraising. When International Women's Day rolled around, it was game time. We made the announcements, sent the email, posted a social media posts, and got our friends and family rallied up to help us spread the word. In the first few weeks, we raised $75,000. We had support coming in from some of the most unexpected places. My network jumped in with donations ranging from the $500 minimum up to commitments of $25,000. I had never asked my community for anything in the 10 plus years I had been cultivating professional and personal relationships, and I was blown away by their support. Knowing my contacts were helping us inch closer to our goal in such significant ways made me feel like I was contributing to the business in an impactful way beyond the skills that I brought to the table. When it rains, it pours, and opportunity was raining down on our company like we could have only dreamed about. Shortly after we launched the seed round, we received an order from a national retailer with stores in more than 400 shopping malls in the United States. When Molly got the purchase order, I thought she was going to pass out. When she got another purchase order later that day, we were confused. They had already sent through a PO. Was this separate, or was this an update to the original? The two purchase orders totaled more than $70,000, by far the biggest order we had ever received. When we got this order, we were doing everything by hand. We purchased bottles from one vendor, labels from another, and labeled all of the products ourselves. We purchased all of the ingredients for the products and made them by hand. And we were doing all of this out of her apartment, mostly in the living room, kitchen area, and in the spare bedroom. No more than 500 square feet of working space. We looked at the total number of units ordered, more than 14,000. My eyes must have been the size of dinner plates. I was so shocked and excited and overwhelmed by the news. When we got a response from the vendor that yes, there were two orders, and yes, the total was correct, time stood still. We looked at each other and squealed. We had a dance party. We told the women who were helping us with production the good news. It was one of the most exciting days of my life. It was also the beginning of the end. We were struggling to find the funds necessary to purchase supplies for this order. I hadn't been paid on time yet, and I had taken a nearly 50% pay cut to pursue this opportunity. So naturally, I was a bit panicked. I figured if I could help us get the order filled, then I'd have a good chance of getting paid. I offered to put the expenses on my personal credit card, as I had accumulated quite a bit of available credit when I was working at the agency. Molly was nervous to accept, and honestly, I didn't see it any other way. As a business, we didn't have access to the resources to get this done, and I was so blinded by the lack of paychecks I was receiving It was truly the only path I could see that would get me paid and not put me at risk of total financial ruin. After she agreed to let me fund the first order, we ordered all of the supplies. A cool $11,000 later, our supplies started rolling in. It was time to get to work. A typical day looked like this: drop Barry off at work around 7 a.m., go straight to Molly's apartment, and get to work. Depending on the needs of the day, we'd make product, label jars, post on social media, promote the seed round, prepare for upcoming pitches to investors, ship out product for online orders, and try to remember to eat. I was pulling 16 to 18-hour days, taking as many boxes of product home with me as I could to try to get ahead on the next day's deliverables. The apartment turned into a pressure cooker as time wore on. As boxes full of product ready to be shipped piled up, there was less space in the apartment. Molly was literally living in her work, and it was starting to take a toll on her. On the morning she was scheduled to pitch the largest global network of angel investors, she called me over early. I arrived and she was in the middle of a panic attack in the fetal position on the couch. Her husband was trying to calm her down, but she wasn't having it. She was crying, screaming, and shaking. I had never seen her like this, and I was concerned for her. I wanted to fix it and make it all go away. When her husband recommended canceling the call, she wailed even louder. I put my hand on her arm and looked her in the eyes. I knew this was a huge moment for the business and for her personally. I also knew that she wasn't going to pull it together in time. The call was in 30 minutes. The call was a quick 10-minute pitch to confirm the network's interest. If they liked what we had to say, they'd send us on a roadshow to pitch their investor networks around Southern California. I've heard you do this pitch a million times. I helped you with the deck. I could do this for you. She pulled away from me and turned to her husband. This is my pitch. I don't want her to do it, she wailed, louder than before. Her husband and I locked eyes, and I knew it wasn't going to happen. This call was not going to happen. We were going to have to reschedule a call with the very folks who could have been able to fund this entire round if they wanted to. What was the point of saying yes to me being a co-founder if she couldn't let me support her in this very dire time of need? I understood how much work she had done to get the company to this point. Is this what the rest of the business relationship was going to look like? Did she not trust me? Did she not think I could handle it? If it were me and it came down to rescheduling the call that could very well change the trajectory of this company, or allowing my business partner to facilitate the conversation, I would want to make sure the conversation still happened. But this wasn't my company to run. Would you like for me to email them and let you know you aren't feeling well and see if they reschedule? I asked. She looked at me and her eyes softened. She nodded yes. I was seething with rage. Well, at least she'll let me communicate with them and let them know it's not happening today, I thought to myself, gritting my teeth and rage typing on my keyboard. For the rest of the day, the image of her pulling away from me when I suggested I take the call kept replaying on a loop in my mind. The look in her eyes was a mix of rage, fear, and disgust. This triggered something deep within me, and for the rest of the day, and for every day moving forward, I found myself walking on eggshells around her, afraid she'd break if I said the wrong thing at the wrong time. And frankly, I was afraid I'd break too. I started having panic attacks after that. I'd usually have at least one a day. Sometimes I'd have two. Things were moving so fast between the fundraising and filling these big orders, it was all I could do to hang on and stay alive. I noticed my blood sugar readings were trending back to levels I hadn't seen since right after my diagnosis. I tried to try to keep myself sane between tasks. I take a lap around the apartment complex. Molly and I would have walking meetings to help keep the energy moving, because if I was in that apartment for too long, I got cranky and anxious. I was walking to get lunch for the team, talking to Barry on the phone, when I started to get dizzy. I told him I needed to hang up because I wanted to have both hands free. I kept walking, trying to take deep breaths as I made my way to the restaurant around the corner. I stood about a block away from the restaurant and started texting Molly to let her know that I was having a panic attack and that I needed help. I made my way to the restaurant, told them I was there to pick up food and I was having a panic attack and that I needed a glass of water. I sat down and my chest felt like an elephant was sitting on it. My heart was racing and I felt deeply disconnected from my body. A few minutes later, Molly came running into the restaurant. She had sprinted from the apartment, terrified of what she might find. I sat for a bit and collected myself, and then we made our way back to work. This pattern would continue for the weeks leading up to the shipment for the first order. I would work insane hours, bring product home with me to label late into the night, and again in the morning before I got to Molly's apartment, then spend all day there hopping in to help with production between my fundraising and marketing duties. I'd go for a walk, have a panic attack, be rendered useless for a little bit, then power through to finish what I was working on until the panic attack came on. As if on cue, the universe dumped another opportunity on us. We were asked to host a sale with one of the largest e-commerce sites in the world. The way it worked was pretty simple. We tell them how much inventory we have, they list it, and when it's gone, the sale is over. We took a look at what we had at the warehouse, gave those numbers to the vendor, and launched the sale. Our products were flying off the digital shelves for this sale, and our physical inventory was depleted quickly. Not one to miss out on a revenue opportunity, Molly logged into the back end of the e-commerce site and made more inventory available, and then instructed me to order the supplies that we need for the products that we need to make more of to fill the order. As I was ordering supplies, I realized none of these items would get here on time without significant fees for expedited shipping. Molly didn't care. The volume was coming in, and that was her only focus: sell as many products as possible, strike while the iron is hot, show traction for the investors. I proceeded to rush order supplies, and when our usual vendors were out of what we needed, I sought out other options, most of which were more expensive than our usual wholesale vendors. If she said it was okay, I wasn't going to question it. This was her ship. She made that abundantly clear around the fundraising pitch conversation. I was just trying to get things out the door so maybe I could get paid on time. The e-commerce giant wasn't our only retail customer. As the deadline for our first big order crept in, we called in all the troops to help us get this order out the door. Barry joined for a day of adding barcodes to products, and he'd swore he'd never help again after he heard how Molly was talking to me. He said if I wanted to subject myself to that, that was my choice, but in order to continue to support me in this decision, he needed to never be around her ever again. It felt like I just woke up from the deepest slumber of my life. I hadn't even registered that the way we were interacting wasn't healthy. I was so busy, I didn't have the capacity to establish boundaries or have challenging conversations. The order was supposed to be picked up the following morning, and we still had hundreds, if not thousands, of products to create before the truck came to pick up the pallet. On pickup day, my teammate from my improv class came in at 5 a.m. and helped me make bath salts and sugar scrubs. We were in the kitchen, furiously dipping jars into buckets of product, trying to make the most efficient assembly line we could while Molly slept. By 8 a.m., it was abundantly clear that this order was not going out today. I was livid. I had been killing myself to get these products done, having panic attacks every day, having friends come join me at 5 a.m., having fights with my husband about how Molly was conducting herself in front of her employees, and for what? Facial oil? Molly called her assistant and asked her to see if we could get the pickup time scheduled for another day. Apparently, we had the dates wrong. This pallet wasn't being picked up until Monday. So that is chapter 9. Oh man, that was such a chaotic time of my life. I'm just really glad that that's over. So tonight, in the spirit of blazing your own trail, starting jobs, being at the beginning stages of stuff that's crazy, I'm excited to welcome Anastasia and Jenna. Anastasia and Jenna, hi, welcome, come on down. It's like The Price is Right.
Here I am, $1,000.
Here she is.
No.
Fantastic. So let's go around the circle. Anastasia, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about Kula Cloth, and then we'll dive into that more. But tell us what it is and why you're excited about it.
Yeah, so I'm Anastasia Allison. I'm a former park ranger and actually railroad police officer turned full-time entrepreneur after long story short, almost didn't make it in a car accident. And obviously that has a happy ending. Here I am. And that was sort of the catalyst for me deciding to actually stop living on autopilot and go after all the dreams and ideas that I had ever had. One of those dreams, oddly enough, ended up being a pea cloth. And this is an example of one I just happen to have sitting here. It is an antimicrobial pea cloth that is intentionally designed as a leave no trace option for anybody who squats when they pee. So I have the awkward job now of getting talked to people about peeing within like the first 2 seconds of meeting them. I'm also a musician and I play my violin with a small duo called the Musical Mountaineers, and we perform music. We do unannounced sunrise serenades in the mountains with a violin and a piano. So that's, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I was not always doing this. I was once an extremely negative, sort of bitter person, and now I just feel like every day I wake up and I just never know what to expect. It's always just such a joy for me to see what each day brings. So,
I love that. Thanks
yeah.
for being here. And Jenna, you're probably one of the funniest people, if not the funniest person I follow on Instagram.
True.
I love the way that you bring it. You're like, yeah, true. I love the way that you bring it. And especially lately, like, I love the change, not the change in tone, because you're still hilarious, but pivoting a little bit to talk about the things that really matter to you. And I just love
Thank you.
how you're speaking up and using your platform for good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mentioned that we connected when you were still the U.S. Olympic Committee. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about the work you did there and what you're doing now.
Yeah, at the Olympic Committee, I was actually a scientific communicator for anti-doping research. So I was like the person in between the chemists and the scientists doing all of the research, and then like the Major League Baseball, NFL people that were like, what? So, and I helped them kind of figure out what their policy should look like and, based on the science. So that's what I did. I abruptly quit that job in February, right before the great change, and started working in digital strategy for Gear Monk, which is a company. It's an app for authentic gear reviews because, I decided to just follow my energy into the outdoor industry where I was doing a lot of my personal platform stuff and finding I just really appreciated helping people get outside. That's where I found my happiness. And I thought, let's maybe get paid to do that. Like there's only so many hours in a day. So I did that. And additionally, I do a podcast and newsletter for the Base Camp Facebook group, Outdoor Dream Jobs, and help people additionally get into the outdoor industry, which is super fun.
I love that so much. Ah, that's so cool. And so tell us a little bit about the gear show that you guys are doing as well.
Yes. So the Thin Air Show is a virtual outdoor brand to media show, additionally retail, additionally nonprofits. We just pushed it back to September, actually, because we felt we were distracting from some much more important conversations right now. And the brands we were working with in the media were like, we really need to focus on something else right now. And we completely agree and want to do so ourselves. So in September, there's going to be a virtual gear show. It's kind of like walking through a video game. You create an avatar, you can walk around, you can talk to people. And for brands, it's really cool because there'll be 1,000 media there that can tell their story to their audiences. So panels
That's
and
incredible.
stuff. It'll be fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. So Anastasia, I got to know, tell me a little bit about how Kula Cloth came to be. And did anything, because like my chapter that I just read was like, we are in it, we are growing, it is hard. Product-based businesses are not easy. I'd love to hear about how Kula got started and any of the challenges that you faced since you started it.
Oh my goodness. As you were reading the chapter, I was like, oh, that sounds like my day today. Um, but I now have like a very consistent meditation practice, and I no longer live in this sort of crazy headspace. So I feel like I'm in a good spot to like just be here and allow things to happen and not like get sucked down that rabbit hole of chaos. So the backtracking a little bit about Kula and where it sort of came from, I started teaching backpacking for a nonprofit here in Washington about a decade ago. It's called Washington Outdoor Women. And through my teaching of this course, of course, like I was always trying to bring good information to my students. One thing that I was really frustrated by was the amount of toilet paper I saw discarded in alpine environments. Like you just go around a larch tree in the most beautiful place and there's a heap of toilet paper. And it was really frustrating to me. And so I went online and ended up finding an article about using a bandana as a pea cloth. And my very first thought was, okay, that's really disgusting. But I'm a backpacking instructor, so I'm going to try it and just see if I like it. So I went out and I bought this ugly little scrap of blue microfiber fabric, attached it to my backpack, and I just thought, this is going to be my pea cloth, and I'll just test it out, see how I like it. And I loved it. It was life changing. I was not having to carry in and out a ton of toilet paper, which I mean, I've gone on like 9-day trips, and if you're carrying in and out a ton of toilet paper, it's a big deal because you're also packing it out with you. And the other option is not using toilet paper when you pee, which ends up being a hygiene issue. For anybody who squats when they pee, they will know what I'm talking about. It's not great. And so I loved using the pea cloth, and I started teaching all my students about using one. And I was on a trip in Wyoming. I was doing the Wind River High Route, which is this amazing 100-mile, mostly off-trail route in Wyoming. and I had my little blue square of microfiber pea cloth, and I had this crazy idea. I was going to take photos of it in beautiful places, and I was going to make a Christmas card to give to one of my girlfriends as a joke. Like, this is where it all started, was this ridiculous idea of making a pea cloth Christmas card series. And had this little scrap of fabric set up on my
This
trekking
is
pole.
awesome.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like, I can't. It's so great.
I thought the Christmas card idea was brilliant. Like, little did I know the rabbit hole I was about to jump down.
Right.
And so I was taking this photograph literally at like 12,000 feet on the Continental Divide. I still have the photo. I mean, the most gorgeous place. And it was like, I feel like most ideas and inspiration it's like given to us as a gift. And I had this idea pop into my head, and it just said, why isn't that a piece of gear? Like, why isn't that a real piece of gear? Like, could I do that? And at the time, I was a railroad police officer, which is like a whole different story. But I did not know how to sew. I did not have any experience within the textile industry. And I had a whole hefty load of limiting beliefs around starting a business. Like, I believe these things, all businesses always fail, or you won't make a profit in the first 3 years. Guess what? If you believe those things, that's what you're going to find. So what happens if you stop believing those things and you were like open to the possibilities that, like, hey, you could have a profitable business, and hey, you could actually be successful? And so I did some preliminary research in 2016 on fabric, and quite frankly, I just got scared and I quit. Fast forward to 2017, I was in a very, very negative place in my life, working for the railroad police. Without getting too much detail, I had a lot of pretty traumatic instances that I had to handle in a very short amount of time. Suffice it to say that people and trains do not mix. And so I was really struggling with like some pretty severe traumatic incidents that I had to handle at work. I was just in this super negative place. I was so focused on everything I didn't want, and I didn't realize that I was like unintentionally like just creating this chaotic momentum of like the perfect storm. Like, I was headed towards like disaster. I was looking to leave my job because I was just so miserable. And it was in the midst of all of this that I went snowshoeing on a really cold January day, 2017. And on the way home, I was involved in a very nearly fatal incident where our truck that I was driving spun into the path of an oncoming semi truck. And
Holy smokes.
obviously, happy ending. Here I am. But that moment for me, it was like a switch changed in my brain. I wasn't actually afraid. Like, anybody who's ever had some sort of a near death experience will tell you that it's like a very surreal feeling, but there's no fear in that moment because you are so present in the moment that you can't manufacture fear. You're just there, and here it is. And I went home, cried for about 3 weeks, and looked at the rest of my life and said, wait a second, if I wasn't afraid in the one moment where I was facing my own mortality, how could I possibly, why am I so afraid of like going after what I want to create in life? Like, why is that so hard for me? And that was sort of the beginning of kind of the beginning of like coming back to who I was and unlearning all of the dumb things I had told myself about who I was for most of my life. I had no clue what I was going to do. My job at the time was like an $80,000 a year job, and I was very, very fearful to leave that because I thought that I would end up, instantly uh, like out on the street or something like that. Just dumb things in my mind that I created, none of which ever happened. I ended up getting to the point where it was scarier not to leave my job and pursue this calling than it was to stay there. And so I left my job in July of 2017 with a vague idea that I was going to do something in the outdoor industry. Like, I told people, oh yeah, I'm pursuing my dream in the outdoor industry, which is code for I have no clue what I'm doing. Like, literal no clue what I'm about to do. Along the way, the idea for the pea cloth popped back up into my head. Like, it had never been gone. It just, all of a sudden, I didn't have fear anymore. I wasn't afraid of money. I wasn't afraid of like looking like a complete idiot. I just, like, it was this intensity of like, you have to do this. And so I did not know how to do anything, like legitimately had no clue how to do anything, but I did know how to make a phone call. And so I just started like calling people and like, hey, how do I sew this? Like, I had a friend, she loaned me a sewing machine, and Sydney already threatened that I was going to show the very first Kula ever. So here we go. This is embarrassing, but this is the very first Kula cloth I ever sewed. It's not even a shape. Like, it's multiple. It's like multiple shapes. And it's actually like, I mean, it was like the word, like, but I love this thing so much. It's very near and dear to my
Yeah.
heart. And there's actually like a hole in it. So I started like, I don't know, the I had this vision that this was possible. And the best way for me to describe it is that when you have a vision and you can tap into the feeling of what you're creating in the now, then the answers come and find you, not the other way around. Like, I did not force anything with Kula. It was like the right people showed up at the right time, and like people just helped me and things showed up, and it was just like, oh my gosh, how is this happening? Um, and that is truly how I still run Kula today. Logistically, I will say that, like, being the owner of a product company, there are a lot of things that nobody tells you when you have a product. Um, like, how are you going to get the product to people? Or, like, do you really want to spend 30 hour, or that you're going to go on a vacation with your husband with a label printer in the back of your Honda Fit and uh and be shipping Kulas from Denny's Wi-Fi in Pahrump, Nevada. Like, true story. Or that when you buy 5,000 boxes for your product, that these do not unfold themselves. Like, you have to, a human being has to unfold this and put the Kula in the box. Like, these are things I did not know. And it sounds super obvious. You're like, well, duh. Like, but you go into a store and you look at a product and it's in a bag and it just like magically got into the bag. You don't think about all the steps that it takes. And so there has been a huge learning curve for me. And I've been so fortunate that Kula has grown so quickly. And I think that that's because I haven't needed it to grow quickly. Like, I'm always just so happy exactly where I am. I think when you need something to be different than how it is, you're actually focused on the lack of where you are. And I wake up every day and I just, like, I'm gonna cry. I just feel like very overwhelmed. So it's cool.
I love
This has been
that.
like,
I
this has
love
been a
it.
very like overwhelming 2 days because we launched this solidarity Kula and have, I think we have had like 500 orders today, which is all,
Congratulations. That's
yeah,
amazing. It's
it's
terrible
like
that
all,
like it's horrible that we have to like create a solid Kula and that these funds need to be donated because this is what's happening in the world. But
yes,
also, like, think about what a great amount of change you're going to create with the money that you're generating
yeah,
from those Kulas. That's incredible.
it is. And I look back now and it's like the intensity that I felt in the beginning, like, is very clear to me that it's like the universe works in strange ways through each of us because it has this bigger purpose for like a difference that we can each make. And, back when I was sewing this, I couldn't have imagined like the impact that we could make. But like now to be in a position where this tiny product um, can contribute like on a major level to something that really matters. I look back at all the pieces that it took to get here, and it's just like, whoa. It's like very, very
So cool.
exciting. So I am the only person on the planet that will consistently cry about a pea cloth. Like every time I talk about it, I cry. So this is not like odd for me.
I
It's not
swear
odd.
we're like 2 degrees separated. I'm like, Kula's your baby. Hiking My Feelings is my baby. I cry basically every day about it. Like I just love, and I
Oh,
love how intentional you are. And I love, there was a comment in the Zoom group, and I will echo this comment. They said, thank you for using inclusive language. Like we hear you when you say anybody who squats to pee. So
yeah,
like, thank
and
you.
what's really interesting about that, I saw that comment pop up and I wanted to say something about it, but we actually just saw an article pop up about our solidarity Kula. I think it was on Gear Junkie or something like that. That happened today. And I was literally on the phone with my sister who helps me out with Kula, like right before I hopped on this call. And my sister was the Gear Junkie had actually written in their article like, oh, Anastasia Allison designed this pea cloth for women. And we
You're
like
like,
in
no,
all,
no.
yeah, and so we were actually like reaching out to the author to be like, can you please change this? Like it is very important for our community. And it it's a small thing, but it's not a small thing. It's
Yeah.
easy to say this is for anybody who squats when they pee. The other cool thing is that we just did a Kula with the Venture Out Project, which is an organization that supports LGBTQ, like trans and queer individuals, like getting into backpacking. And I just mailed them a big check for their Kula. So that kind of stuff is like, whoa, this is so exciting.
I love that so much. Oh, that's so
I'm
cool.
gonna try. I'm gonna not
Yes.
cry anymore. So.
Yay. Crying is welcome here. We all cry. Like there's
Okay,
always
good.
at least one. It's usually me and like a couple people on the gratitude circle. There's always tears. You're in good company here.
Okay, good.
All right, Jenna, tell me a little bit about your transition into Gear Monk and like why you wanted to be in the outdoor industry. I know you were using your personal platform to explore that side of your life, but what was the thing that made you flip the switch?
Yeah. So it kind of actually started back in sport for me because one day I was like complaining about my weight and my husband's like, go be a power lifter. And I'm like, shut up. And then I did it. And so that was amazing, right? Because all of a sudden I'm like slowly doing something that I never thought I'd be able to do after struggling much of my life with like the kind of thought that, hey, I'm not ready to do that thing. So I never tried stuff. I never went outside of my comfort zone, like ever. Because I'm like, well, I'm not thin enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not, tan, whatever it was, I wasn't enough. And then all of a sudden I was doing this powerlifting stuff and just being like, you can do all of the things. Amazing. So I was just like, well, what else can I do? And I mean, in my career, I just kept building and was like, I'm smarter than all of these people. What is going on here? And then one day I'm like, I'm going to ask for a huge raise and a huge promotion. And they're like, yeah, you got that. And I'm like, oh, that's all you have to do is raise your hand. Cool. Okay. So that was a big piece of it, just recognizing that if you raise your hand, you're kind of halfway there. Like you're telling yourself that you want it, and then you're announcing to everybody else that you want something. And so part of that first step was for me to be like, what is it that I want? So I can raise my hand. And I kind of stayed back, but I joined this group called Base Camp, which if you guys don't know, it's Base Camp Outdoor Jobs and More on Facebook. It was like my favorite Facebook group ever because it was all these outdoor industry leaders and like people giving contacts and advice and just all of these jobs. And I'm like, cool, this is the best community ever. And I realized like I just loved it. I loved not only on my own kind of Instagram channels, going outside and then telling people about it and then helping them find the confidence to also go outside and to, be good stewards as well. But also like in this indoor outdoor industry, like faction, I'm like, wow, this is a really burgeoning industry. It's very cool. It's very fun. I feel at home here. And so I wanted to kind of have more freedom in my job. That was one thing that I found was missing. So I really went through and was like, what don't I like about this job, which is many people's job, to be honest. And what am I seeking? And what I was seeking was more authority, and more just freedom of my own voice, and also a boss that would let me really focus on my personal brand and my passion projects. Just like, that might sound selfish, but that was really important to me, because I'm like, listen, in the base camp group, I actually ended up becoming an admin of that group and starting a podcast with the co-admin of that group, and spending a lot of time in what I considered a very fulfilling area of life, which is pairing people with jobs in the outdoor industry, telling them about it, and then giving them resources to help them really like go for it in a cool way. So that ended up being Gear Monk. And my boss there is just like, build what you need to build. The coolest part is he trusts my instincts. He said that the other day. He's like, if your gut is telling you to do it, we're going to do it, which is a really big thing. Like, maybe not for everyone, but for me, that was the biggest thing, being trusted. And if somebody didn't trust me, then I'm not into it. So, I really, really narrowed down those things that made me me, and made me feel my best, and made me feel my most empowered, and went for them, and will continue to do so, because I think that those things are going to shift throughout my life too. And I'm going to realize, I thought I wanted that. Maybe I didn't want that, or maybe it looks a little bit different than it does right now, and maybe I should be shifting it. So yeah, just that point of like raising your hand and recognizing that, you're good enough now, and also really shifting what failure looks like too, for me, was a big deal, because I take everything personally. I feel like we were talking about that earlier, and like Anastasia is like, I'm good. I take nothing personally. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm like a sponge, and I just like, I soak it in. And I had, my mentor was the CEO of the Olympic Committee at the time. And she's like, wow, you are making a lot of decisions based on what other people think. And not only what other people think, but what you think other people might think. And I was like, oh, wow, that's not a great way to be making my decisions, is it? And so learning to kind of step back and realize, like, I need to be really rooted in my gut and listening to my body and my intuition, and like just listening to myself, because I'm really smart. That's kind of what's leading me right now. And I don't know what next year will look like, because my career trajectory has been so weird and like really fun. But I started out like in aerospace and tech, and then I went to sport, and now I'm in outdoor, and now I'm like, maybe I should go to space. I don't know. Like, let's see what's next.
I love that so much. And if there's anybody that could just like transition easily into space, I feel like that would be you. So like, go for it if you want to.
I would love to leave Earth at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, right? Yeah, we'll take a rocket ship. We'll just go make a new place. I love it. So tell us a little bit about Base Camp and the podcast, and like if there's somebody that's watching or listening that's like, you know what, I went out for a hike and I felt amazing, and they're like starting to get that, like they're starting to connect the dots that like spending time outside and or these kinds of activities leads to fulfillment, and then they want to transition into working in that kind of space. Do you have any advice for people, or like where they should start like thinking about that?
Yeah. So where I said earlier, wherever your energy takes you, because I shifted recently from like talking about, oh, I only have so much time, to I only have so much energy, and really looking at the tasks that made me feel like I could do them forever. Like, so it's different for different people, but when you go to a networking event, sometimes you're just so tired after. That's me, I'm an introvert. And then some people are like, I have so much energy, like, let's go do this more, whatever. So like really look at how you're feeling after something like that. And I think lean into those activities, and then be like, all right, if this is whatever it is for me, graphic design, figure out, just where the graphic design jobs are. And there's actually a lot of them, but maybe the first step also is figuring out what jobs there are out there, because there are actually a ton more jobs in the outdoor industry than I ever knew about. I mean, you can work in sustainability, you can work in diversity and inclusion. That's obviously a very needed area right now, and has always been, but people are realizing it now. All of the marketing, graphic design stuff, product design, accounting even. I mean, if you're somebody that loves going outside and you already have a very specific skill set, outdoor companies need those too. And actually, they're always looking for like anything IT, they're always looking for, but also just if you're really into it. For the podcast, we interview all of these outdoor leaders, And I have not heard one that has not said, start in retail. It's an exceptionally important kind of platform because you are on the ground dealing with customers, understanding the needs of people that go outside, and just customer service. There's so many things that you learn in retail. And then additionally, if it's a company that you maybe want to rise the ranks in, that's a great way. For instance, Patagonia was our first interview, and they were like, if you want to work here, get in the retail stores. They're a business of their own. You learn about us, you show us that you're committed and that you want to be here. And that's how we hire. So we hire from within. So those are a few things that you can do, is just really know what's out there, what you like to do. And then from there, just kind of be confident in doing it. And additionally, when you're applying, I would also recommend, there's a lot of applicants, right? So there's a lot of, it's a kind of saturated industry usually. And then additionally in a pandemic, it's been exacerbated a little bit. So show you can do the work. And what I mean by that is see what their needs are first, and don't just put in your resume, you know, I can do graphic design. Go to their page and see maybe some of what they're doing, and actually do a graphic design piece and show, this is the type of work I would do for your company.
I love that. Yeah, I did that for one of my jobs. It was going to my second job. So I started my career at Weber Shandwick in Chicago, which is the largest global PR firm. And then I moved to Austin. And for my interview for that, it was for a data analyst position. So I did an analytics report on my own blog and my own social media, and like
Yep.
turned that in with my resume and was like, here, hire me. And they're like, yes, done. So
Yep,
that is
for
excellent
sure.
advice.
It's a way to kind of like advance past your, I would say, expertise. And that's what I did for the Olympic Committee, is I built a website, and they were just like, oh shit, you can, okay, you can do stuff. Yeah. Like, it was just like such a weird, my boss then had like, I've never seen that. So it just like, not only like, it wasn't the best website ever, it was like a Wix website, but also he was like, you just stood out too, right? So he's like, I couldn't get out of my mind that you stood out and were creative and like brought something new. So
Yeah, that's solid. And Anastasia, did you have something to add to that? It looks like you might.
No, I was just totally agreeing with everything. Like, I feel like if you're trying to get a job somewhere, then you're very often like focused on the lack of your job there. And so I think like what you're doing when you sort of did that data analytics thing, whatever it was, I'm obviously not a numbers person, or when Jenna built a website, it was like you guys had already visualized yourself in that position, and you were inspired to do something that like instantly turned it into a reality, as opposed to like most people when they're applying to jobs, I think there's this sense of lack and franticness, like just like give me this job. And it's so much easier when you can just like allow it to happen. I'm so
Yeah,
woo.
for sure. Well, no, and I love it. I love it though, because that's when you were saying that about Kula, I was like, that's the same thing for Hiking My Feelings. Like we sat down in our living room after like a couple concerts. It's like music always is a transformative experience for me, where like at prior times in my life, like music, vacations, big outdoor trips, whatever, I never had time to like sit down, reflect, integrate, like what are the lessons? How can I put them into my life? But after these like 2 back-to-back concerts, then my husband and I came home and I was like, let's brainstorm. Like, what could Hiking My Feelings be? Because I was inspired by the artists that we went to go see at these concerts, and that he was a multi-instrumentalist. He produced all of his own music. He wrote his own lyrics. He produced the records himself. He built his own studio. So I was like, this, like, I'm not a musician, but who's to say that I couldn't go and do all of that for myself? And that was kind of like my permission to just go after all of my dreams. And so I was like,
Yes.
okay, well, what could Hiking My Feelings be? Well, right now it's like I've got 3 dates with REI. Like this was when we were first starting out. It's like I got 3 dates to tell my story and lead hikes. Like what else do I want to do? Okay, well, I'd like to do that around the country. I don't just want to like stay in Southern California. I'd like to go all the way around. I'd like to write a book. I'd like to do some kind of like documentary or film or something about like the impact that the outdoors has on people. And so I had like these 3 tenets of what I wanted to do. And then I was just like, I told my husband, I was like, I had taken improv classes earlier that year, and the power of yes and was a huge part of our brainstorming process, because I was like, I don't care about the how, because the how does not matter. I want to get crystal clear on the what and the why, and just let everything else fall into place. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened.
It's
So when we're
it's
making,
wild.
it's so crazy, like, and when we have opportunities come our way, we like some are paid, some are unpaid, some come with like other perks, whether that's gear or exposure or whatever. But like at the end of the day, I don't care so much about the how as I do these questions. One, does this make the world a better place for everybody, not just for some of us? And two, does it feel good? Because if it feels good and it makes the world a better place, the money will follow. The resources will always be there every single time.
Yes.
So I loved what you were saying about that with Kula and just the intention and the way I feel like we're on the same wavelength about all three of us about like how intentionally we talk about things too, because that's a huge part of anybody's success is like, if you can see it in your mind, if you can, like, to your point, if you can see yourself in that job or making these different business decisions or going around the country or living in this van, whatever the dream is, if you can see it and you're not attached to how it shows up, then it could happen very easily. It could happen very quickly, and it might look a little bit different than what you originally thought, but it could be even better. And
Yeah,
that
100%.
that has been such a beautiful lesson, and it's fun. Like it's chaotic and it's scary to trust like that. Like I still have to check myself. And it's funny, I got like an artist that came to the Reggae Ranch a few weeks ago to just like jam and hang out and stuff, like left behind an electric tea kettle and a box of tea. And I made myself a cup of tea and it was that yogi tea. So there's like little mantras on the back. And it said, and this was like literally the day before my birthday. So this was Tuesday. And it said, if you let yourself be successful, you will be successful. And I was like, oh, I'm so scared of success. And like in the past, I was terrified of success and like what is possible because I had spent so much time, especially as somebody, as a survivor of sexual assault. 23 of my friends died in 4 years. Like the list of things that I've been through is pretty long. And I had always been waiting for that other shoe to drop. And it was really hard to trust when things felt good and aligned. But then I got like a tea bag as the one that like clicked the switch. I was like, oh, well, if I just let myself be successful, then I will be. And then like, no shit. Yesterday, I get an email from CBS 8 and they want to interview us about Hiking My Feelings. And then I did that interview this morning from right here in this chair. And it's just like all these things are clicking. We're getting more donations. Like it's just
When
nuts.
you like open the tap, because I think so many people think very linearly based on past experience. Like, for instance, and I'll use money as a great example, money comes to me from a paycheck. That's what most people, it's this linear experience. Like, money comes to me from a paycheck. Well, I like to tell people to visualize that, like, there are these invisible threads that are radiating out from every cell in your body, and every single solitary one of those threads will take you, and there's infinite of them. They will take you on a different and wonderful and unique path to discover what you want to bring into your life. But when you say there's only one way for me to get from here to there, you've literally just taken a hedge trimmer and like trimmed off all the incredible ways that things could come to you. And so like when you can just be open to the possibilities of something happening, all of a sudden you aren't blocking all this crazy stuff from flowing into your life. This is like, okay, I have to share my funny manifestation story. This is from like literally from last week. I was on a so I use a 3PL fulfillment for Kula now because I like literally could not ship all the Kulas by myself. Talk about logistics. So all the Kulas are shipped by this company called ShipBob, and they basically are like,
that's who we used.
yeah, they're great. Oh my gosh, they've literally given me my life back, and I'm not paid to
Yep.
say that. But so I was actually, they asked me to speak on a webinar with them, and I was paired up with this woman from this marketing company called, or a bath and body company called Kopari that does like skincare stuff or something.
Yeah.
And she was talking about how they outsource all their marketing and they use these like big marketing firms, like PR firms, and they hire them. And here I am with like little old Kula. And somebody was like, Anastasia, what's your marketing budget per month? And I was like, well, I spent $250 last month on Facebook ads. Like they literally probably spent like $100,000 just last month on their marketing company. And so I had this joke going all last week. I was like, I'm going to have my own marketing company one day and it's just going to be really, really cool. Like, I kid you not, last week, a PR firm reached out to us via Teresa Baker with the CEO Diversity Pledge. And they were like, we want to promote your product pro bono because of this solidarity, the Solidarity Kula. And so I literally found myself on a call with like this PR firm who helped us craft a press release. I mean, this is something that like Kula doesn't, if I had thought linearly about how this was possible, I would have thought to myself, okay, well, how much money can I spend on marketing? Or, how much money, I would have gotten into the how of it. And I would have snip, 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 like there go all the chances of that happening. But I think because I was just like joking around about it and having fun with like, yeah, one day we're going to have a PR firm. And it was like, boom, you have a PR firm. So it's just
I
like,
love that.
I hope people can be open to that magic in their life because I'm not special or unique in my ability to allow this stuff to flow. Like each of us has this. And that's what excites me the most is watching other people sense that for the first time. Like once you feel it, it's the most natural thing ever. And you go back, you think back to like when you were a kid and things just happened around you and it was like, wow, this is so cool. And then you started listening to the stuff that everybody told you about the way life was. And somewhere along the way, you're like, this is foolish and reckless. I should never start a business. And now here I am.
It's
like,
wild how we just beat that out of ourselves. Well, or how society and parents and friends and teachers like, and they all mean well, but
they
like
do.
I wasn't
Absolutely.
taught I wasn't taught how to think this way. Like, and I'm a powerful manifester. Like I am really good at this stuff. Like there is nothing that I can't dream up and have happen.
Yes.
But it, and that's been the case for most of my life, but it wasn't until I got that language to understand, oh, this is what's happening. This is what intention is. This is how this stuff comes to be, that I was able to like really like cultivate that and
Yeah.
get like all the way into my body and just be like, all right, cool. So like that's how this happened. Like we were here and our friends bought this property last year and then we go on the 2020 tour and then it gets canceled when we were in Joshua Tree thanks COVID. And then we come back here and I spent the first 2 weeks in the fetal position and then we're walking up the hill and Sue, the lady that owns it, she's like, "Hey, that'd be a cool place for you to build something." Just points out this flat space on the side of the trail and I was like a tent, like a place to put like what would I build? She's like a retreat center. And I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You just did it.
Yeah, let's okay, sure.
Isn't that
Fine. Great.
like,
And then I was like, okay, so the someday plan is the right now plan. Let's go get some hedge trimmers and like start clearing land. And then we're definitely not hiking around Chicago. So I've already been promoting these dates like May 26th to June 14th. I was going to do a virtual book tour, like read chapters in the morning. We could do a campfire. Like that sounds fun. Get some cool people around. Like this could actually be even better than the fundraiser we had planned because we were just going to be hiking around Chicago, which would have been dope, but I wouldn't have been able to connect with all these awesome people because they're not in Chicago. I was just like,
isn't
oh,
it
okay,
amazing? Isn't it like,
sure. That's what I'm doing now. And I have renderings. Like, this is legit happening. We're raising money. I had no idea how to do any of this. And I was just like, okay, let's try it and see what happens. And that's
so,
it. And it's like, and that's not to discredit myself because like I've worked my ass off to get here. I have wonderful skills that I'm channeling in beautiful ways and I'm not holding myself back, but also it's pretty freaking rad to just like see how this all just happens.
I love what you said about how I feel like when things get sort of knocked off what seems to be the path that we had wanted to take, you can resist it or you can go with the flow. And I love just imagining like life is a river. You can flow downstream with it and say, this is taking me to someplace better. Or you can like frantically paddle upstream and like try to change what is. And what I've seen over the past like few months has been this incredible like birth of like the desire that was created for something greater as a result of this extreme contrast due to COVID it like, I love thinking of chaos as being on the dark side of the moon, because in every space movie that has ever happened, the astronauts always, and here we are going back to space again, but like the astronauts always use the dark side of the moon to like catapult them to some, like they need the momentum. And I don't know how that works, but
Yeah.
like I feel like a moment of chaos like this, it can be this defining moment where you look back and realize that it was like that low that actually sort of rocketed you to a place that you never would have been otherwise. And that's all you, because you were open to the possibilities. If you had resisted it and stayed in the fetal position, probably wouldn't have happened.
Probably not.
Yeah.
That's usually not how those things go.
I'm so
So,
glad that
Jenna,
you did. That's so
I
exciting.
know. I'm so excited. It's stupid. So Jenna, when we're talking about like I kind of want to like shift things a little bit. So you're one of the funniest people I know on the internet and probably in real life. The second I get to meet you, we're gonna tackle hug. But what was there a moment in your world or your job or just your personal life where you were like, oh, because I feel like the transition from like Jenna's funny and a good steward for the land to Jenna gives a shit about all the things and she's really vocal about it. Like, what was there like an event where you're like, oh, now's my time to show up, or like what drove you to transition into that kind of advocacy? Because like the stuff you're putting out has always been incredible, and the stuff you're putting out even now lately, I'm like, yeah, this is the kind of world I want to live in, where people are using like standing up and being like, oh, this is what I have to say and here's how I'm going to say it. What happened with that?
Sorry. I was listening
Crying's
to
fun. Yay! We got 2.
Yes.
I was listening to an episode of She Explores with Sydney Williams.
Oh.
And I'm
Now
sure
I'm
you
gonna
remember
cry.
that message. And I listened to you and you changed my trajectory in so many ways. And you allowed me to say that vulnerability is power and see how powerful it could be and see how powerful a message could be. I have always been very worried about my image. I was raised that way. And I don't know, society is just kind of like, care what you look like, care about all this stuff. And all of a sudden it was
Right.
like, I care about, like, I feel like I just want to tear down these walls. They're exhausting. And then all of a sudden I heard you on that podcast and you're like, this happened to me. And it doesn't define me. I'm not a victim. It happened. And now I'm talking about it. And now I'm just doing whatever I want. And I'm like harnessing the power of it and like, let's go. And I'm like, things have happened to me too. Wow. Like maybe they've happened to other people. And I mean, I'm not as brave as you yet. I haven't talked about the really, really big stuff maybe, but like just the little stuff. I mean, even Anastasia, like peeing outside, people don't talk about that stuff. Like the menstrual cup thing. It's like one of my most popular posts is just being like, here's my opportunity, or here's what happened when I used a menstrual cup in the forest or whatever. Cause people were like, yeah, like what happens? We don't know. Stuff like that. So it was a lesson in vulnerability and just tearing down the walls. And I'm like, I can either be real and cut through the noise. And if I'm not going to do that, why even bother? So thank you.
Well, received. Thank you. and also thank you just in general, because like, yeah, I love it. Wow. Okay. Well, so if you want to tell stories, that just completely wiped my brain of any question I was going to ask you, because I'm like, I got nothing. I did not think I was the source of that change.
No, and I literally didn't even realize that until you asked me that question, and I was like, holy shit, okay. Yeah. No, I don't have any stories because all I do is sit at my house now. I feel like I don't do anything. It's so sad, but
yeah.
I mean,
so you're from Canada and now you're here.
I'm from Canada, and then I moved to Spain where I eloped with my husband. And then we moved to Germany where I frolicked very much. And then I moved to France, and then I moved to America for the first time. And let me tell you, America's been interesting.
I would love let's give us your read on America.
Okay. So first of all, we'll start simple. Nothing here that is grape flavored tastes like grape. Why? I don't understand that at all. I live in Colorado. I actually adore Colorado and don't want to leave. I think the people here are really nice and I think everyone's great here. It's weird that there's no healthcare here. That's just weird. The electoral college is pretty weird. What else? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on that it just seems it's just weird. It's hard to say, but you know what? What I do see about America is that there's a lot of passionate people here, and I think that if we start working together, we can do something really good. So that's the
Yeah.
potential in America.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel that too. Well, it's like, and as much as, and that's the thing that inspires me, and part of the conversation I was having with one of our guests yesterday, Stephen, aka Zion is just that like there's so many people in the streets, online, like everybody's got an opinion, and that's good because everybody's got an opinion. Like people are speaking up, and like
yeah,
some of the opinions being shared are terrible and should never be repeated, but people are speaking up. And the people that are leading in the space, the brands that are leading in this space, like I'm just really excited to see what the world looks like from this point forward. And if we don't let up and don't allow the things that are happening to continue happening, I think, well, I know that we have a really unique opportunity to create whatever kind of world we want to live in. And that's kind of where we started going last night. And it's just like, for me personally, I wouldn't have arrived at this destination that I'm at right now with Hiking My Feelings if we didn't cancel everything and lay in bed for 2 weeks and slow down. So like, I'm so thankful for this opportunity. And as much as what's going on with like protests and riots and George Floyd and Ahmaud and Breonna and everything else, like that's all terrible, but that's not new. Like that's been happening in this country for so long that combined with everybody's at home, you have to pay attention because you can't go numb it out. You can't go run away from it. It is in your face, in your device right here. You can't escape it. I think we're in this really interesting position where we could actually deeply heal some deeply seated trauma that has been in this country and in these bodies for hundreds of years. Like this is a very unique opportunity. And for me, like I think speaking about it the way that we're speaking about it, using intentional language, recognizing the opportunities, like I love what you're doing with the solidarity kula. Like this is how we start making those little things. And it's like it's one piece of gear, it's one of however many kulas you offer, but it's a step. And like that's how we do this. Like we don't just go straight to the summit unless we got a helicopter, and I don't have a helicopter. So like we have to keep taking these steps like one at a time to build this world that we want to live in. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I feel
I'd
like
like one.
No, I mean, I think that's the key here, right? It's just like doing the steps
Yeah.
that you can do. And even with your career and even with your wellness center, it starts with an email usually. Most big projects just start with an email and like, who do I know? Who can I ask? If they don't know, maybe they know somebody. And so just following your ability, don't minimize what you can do with even just like a gesture or like a compliment to somebody that they're not expecting. Don't underestimate what you can do.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. So Anastasia, I am dying to hear another song if you've got one to share with us. And she does.
Here I am with a violin. So I'm gonna play. I think I'm gonna play the Ashokan Farewell, which is probably one of my favorite songs. It's probably a song I've played almost everywhere that I've ever played music. This was actually the very first song that the Musical Mountaineers ever played in the mountains, and it is
cool.
written. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's written by a guy named Jay Unger, who it was. Some people might recognize it as the theme song for that documentary that Ken Burns did on the Civil War many years ago. This was a theme song for that. The song itself was not written for the documentary. What the song is talking about is about love. And Jay Unger owns a musical center called the Ashokan Farewell. And at the end of their week of being together and performing, all of the musicians actually play this song. as sort of a reminder that even though they might be apart, they're always together. So it's just sort of a song that speaks to every moment in life. So anyway, that's what I'm going to play
I
for all of
love
you.
that.
Here we go.
Awesome. I love that smile, like as you're getting ready to be done. I'm just
I
so stoked
know,
on
I
it.
can't
You're
help
like,
it.
and this is the last one.
This is
I
the
love
last
it.
note, and I
Awesome.
didn't screw it up completely. No, I'm kidding.
Cool. Well, so if you are able to stick around, Jenna and Anastasia, I'm going to bring on Gabaccia next, but towards the end of her interview, we start our group gratitude circle. So if you'd like to
Oh,
stick
I would
around
love
and
that.
participate in the group gratitude circle, that would be amazing. So Gabaccia, come on down,
Yay,
put on that
Gabaccia.
video.
Wait, oh, hello. I'm
There she is. Hey,
unmuted.
hello. Oh, it's so good to see your face.
I know, it's so good. More, it's so funny after being a nomad for a while and then starting to live in a place and then COVID happening. And now I'm kind of used to this social interaction again. Like this is my new normal again, you know?
Right? Yeah. So for anybody that's not familiar, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, what's your background, and what are you doing now?
Sure. Hi, I'm Gabaccia, and it's actually so good to be here, and it's an honor uh, to be here also next to Anastasia and Jenna. I really admire the work that you both do. So this is a really great opportunity for me. My background is in many things. I grew up in a little town in Veracruz, Mexico, and but I was born in San Antonio, Texas, so I always had dual citizenship, and that's actually where the name Gabaccia comes from. Just a little background on that. It just means that I am from the US, and that's just something that my friends always called me. So I liked it. I took it. I added an Italian spelling to it, and now it's really hard to pronounce for some people. But I think I'm doing a service by introducing you to some Italian Italian pronunciations. It's great. It's a service, you know, all of it. And then my background is in I by trade I am a performance artist. I study theater and anthropology, and I have a master's in performance studies. So like a more academic master's. But in the past like 5 years, I've kind of reconnected deeply with the outdoors. So I've been active as a volunteer in our public lands and doing some work for nonprofits. I had a company called Stranded on Land for a while, and we did a lot of photography and video and activations for hospitality. And currently I have a full-time job working at a design agency as hired as an account manager, now doing all the web stuff and beyond, social media strategy or whatever is needed, I do it. That's what, when people are like, so what can you do? I'm like, what do you need me to do? I'll figure it out. I'll do it. It's kind of how I roll. So I just love nature. I love the outdoors. Growing up in Mexico, our access to the outdoors is so different. My relationship to it was very particular because my dad's a hunter, and also he owned fields and agriculture, like growing hibiscus and watermelon and all a bunch of different things. So we always had a relationship to nature that was based in respect. And in a way, like I was very privileged to grow up with that. So for me, being in nature is like being at home. I did kind of, when I moved out of my hometown, went on an urban spree. So I moved to Mexico City. I lived in LA. I lived in New York. And then eventually I kind of had to go back home, right? Not literally, but in the way that feels good for me. And that's just being on the trail, being in the backcountry, not knowing what creature I'm going to run into next. Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. So we connected when our tour went through Kalispell, Montana, and that's where I met you the first time. And you were up there working with a group in Montana. Tell us a little bit about the group that you were working with and what was your role there?
Yeah, so this story is funny. It started about 10 years ago, probably more. I was 20. I was in college in Buffalo, New York. And my program director for the theater department suggested that I apply for this AmeriCorps position to lead a multicultural summer program for inner city kids. And I was like, cool. So I went on the AmeriCorps website to fill out all my paperwork. And obviously I'm curious. So I went around and I saw what other things were there, and I stumbled upon the conservation stuff, and I saw these pictures of people carrying like chainsaws and, tools, just primitive tools or whatever. And I thought, wow, that looks so cool. Like people actually do that. People go on the summer and just build trails and stuff. And I thought it was the most amazing thing. But at that point I was like, but that's not me, like, I'm the theater thing. I do the artsy stuff. So, and like I've never seen myself as like this like strong person that can endure many things. So I thought, this is cool for the people who can do it. That I would love to do it someday. But then I never did it. And last year, or the beginning of 2019, as my one company was crumbling apart from like bad client relations, I just decided if I can manage to immerse myself in being outside and working outside with my body, because I'm used to working outside but in front of my computer, it's like I was living on the road for a long time, and I'm always outside but always in front of a screen, or always my work is coming back to a screen. And I thought, I'll figure out. And then I started to look up the options, and most conservation programs actually, they have an age cap, which is like you have to be under 24, and this is for people that are under 20 whatever. And I was like, oh great, I'm already 30, what am I going to do? Who wants me? And suddenly I run into the Montana Conservation Corps, and there was no note about age. And I was like, maybe I can do this. And then I looked at the pay rates and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, this is why this is for young people, right? Because you're in college and your loans are gonna pull you through. So then I was like, well, I'm just gonna apply. I just applied. I was like, I don't know, I'll figure out. I was like, I'll get people to sponsor me to do this, or I'll figure out. So I just applied, and I had my interview, and it went great. And I just wanted to go do trail work in the backcountry. So I just, one day I talked to my boyfriend Roberto, and he was getting another conservation work actually, and And he said, you know what, I think we can swing it. I mean, it's gonna be a tight summer. It's gonna take a while to pay back all the credit card stuff that we're gonna use, but let's do it. You know, you go to Montana, I'll go to New Mexico, and we'll be cool. So I did it. I just went to Montana, didn't know anybody, but didn't have to, you know, just showed up with a bunch of kids, which was awesome, because I also realized like I don't have many friends in the Gen Z generation, and I kind of need that. Like I need to know where their heads are at, and I think it's gonna be great. So, you know, it's like I was just a crew member, so my crew leaders were younger than I am, and that was just awesome to like allow myself to go through the leadership of the younger generation and see where their heads are at, and you know, had to learn how to destroy Mother Earth for the greater good, which can be hard, is such a contradictory moment, right? It's like, come on, you just gotta chop these trees, you gotta chop these branches, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. It's the work, it's, you know, so people can come hike and then not mess up the rest of it. So it was, you know, it was awesome. I'm so glad I was able to be there and work in Glacier National Park. What a crazy place. And the Kootenai National Forest. And it just is so much beauty, and such different beauty from what I'm used to, you know, living mostly either in the urban north or the desert in the last couple of years. I've been kind of living in Joshua Tree, living now in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and then, you know, having grown up in the south of Mexico, which is super humid and all jungly. So the alpine setting was just such a treat. And yeah, you know, just opening trails, cleaning trails all summer.
That's so cool. What was the hardest part of that job? Was it the physical labor, or were there other parts that were more demanding?
At the beginning, hiking up. So some of these trails are really old. They used to be roads, and they didn't believe in switchbacks back in the day. So they just go up, and it mostly made for horses, which also, like, poor horses, they shouldn't be going through this. But carrying a freaking chainsaw up the hill was pretty brutal. I mean, it happened all so fast. I just, like, and that just takes you to the next level of, I mean, I didn't train for it. I wasn't at the gym trying to lift, right, to build muscle, prepare me, because I didn't even know. I had no, kind of like how Anastasia was saying, like, you know what, the things nobody tells you, right? So you run into them, you know, when somebody passes your chainsaws, like, put it on your back, hike up this hill. And, you know, I just remember the first time going up with a chainsaw, I ran out of breath, and I had to stop. And one of our like trainers was there, and she was like, please stop. You can stop. You don't have to keep up. It's like, obviously, I don't have to keep up with the 18-year-old people. I can just run up the hill with a chainsaw. So, you know, it was a great experience to just allow myself to figure it out on the spot, to get strong on the spot, and just to prove to myself that I can actually be a pretty strong person if that's all I'm doing. Which is, you know, at the end of the day, like in our lives, we're always like, oh, I wish I could do that. But unless you actually go do it, try it, you're not going to get better at it, or you're not going to get to how you envision yourself that you could. So that was definitely probably the most challenging thing, just getting through the mental physical barriers that I had for myself.
Yeah, that's a lot. So did you discover any like tips or tricks that would help you like wrap your head around what you were about to do, or did you just kind of figure it out as you went and more experience made it easier?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely got easier every day. Just at first you don't understand how your body keeps going from this, just the physical strain. But I knew that it was going to be tough, so I just made a very conscious decision to just take care of my body, like eating well, and finding time to meditate, and also letting go of other expectations, right? Like at first I thought like, oh, I'm gonna journal every night and I'm gonna write so much. And then once I was there, I was like, no. If anything, I will write, yeah, like I'll get to my freaking tent at night and I'll be like, today Devon's sock got stuck in the branch and that's all I can write right now, and good night. Like I can't stay up for another hour or two writing when I have to be up before sunrise and set up camp for my crew and make sure that I eat breakfast and that I pack lunch. And so it was mostly just being mindful and letting go of the other expectations that were unrealistic about it, that just didn't need to happen.
Yeah. And one of the things that I was just taken by when we met is you were talking about exploring responsibly. And I'd love for you to just share a bit about that, how you got into it, what does that mean to you, and how is that showing up in your life in these different times that we find ourselves in?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a tale as old as time, I think, just because my being so close to nature growing up, I wasn't taught leave no trace, but my dad always told me we have to respect the land and we don't leave trash. And if we see trash, we pick it up. And if we see animals, we don't bother them unless there's a way that we could help them. So I always grew up like that. So for me, it's just always been second nature. But I think I just started saying it out loud because the more I started recreating, and also when I became a volunteer at the Joshua Tree National Park, it became very obvious that there was a divide between the people that were mindful while they were exploring and the people that just were not aware. And so for me, just exploring responsibly, and it's ever evolving, being open to things that I don't know responsible about yet, right? Like it starts with picking up trash, but it also goes into this realm of how can I explore more inclusively, right? Like, who are my friends that I explore with? Where are they from? And being kind of mindful about how can I include my community into my adventures too, as a person that's kind of in this limbo of being maybe an immigrant, maybe a rightful immigrant, or whatever that is. So it really goes into different phases. But for me, is also a reminder to self that once I'm there, I'm the eyes of the land. So if I see something, I have to say something. It's really hard for me not to say something. And I do it sometimes. I definitely do it sometimes, because there are days where I can't. And, because I know that no matter how hard you try and with how much kindness you approach saying something, it can backlash in so many awful ways. And I've been through it. I've been threatened by people with guns, and I've been also threatened by people with puppies that they swear are service animals. It's like, in the end, it's hard not to take it personal. And I know it's hard for them not to take it personal, but knowing that you have an opportunity to, and I don't want to say teach, because it's not like I'm here, I know it, and this is the right way, but an opportunity for you and the other person to learn something together. It doesn't always turn out as positively as one wants. And also, because I have a white passing boyfriend, I get to see the difference between me, brown woman, approaching someone, and him, white looking guy, approaching someone, even though he's Mexican too. So it's definitely an interesting spot to be, but exploring responsibly is just, it's just about that, spreading the love, and in the hopes that we'll care enough to leave things better than we find them, outside and inside. You know, like,
Yeah.
whenever you
Yeah.
come with, you know, like right now we're all coming together. I hope we all leave better than when we came in, because we all provided something that can help each other.
Yeah, I love that. Is there anything that's on your heart and mind that you just want to share, or you want people to know about, or something like an awareness that you'd like to bring, or something you'd like to bring awareness to? Because I love the point that you made about how, like, it's not teaching, it's not like I am right and you are wrong, but like, just I've been saying a lot with our group for Hiking My Feelings, like, the awareness is the work, right? Like, as we become aware of these things, whether it's about ourselves or the way we recreate or the way we do business or how we show up in relationships, like, as we become more aware, then like that is the work. It's just increasing awareness and making different choices once we have that awareness. So is there anything you'd like to bring awareness to, or anything that is on your heart and mind that you'd like to share with us today?
Oh, there is. There is something that right now is like hitting really close to my heart, because I put a lot of energy in the places where I put my energy. Like, I'm not like a one-off kind of person. I get invested. So I guess I would like to tell everyone that if you are really invested with an organization that you believe aligns with your values, but then something happens and they're not showing up for you in the way that you would expect, because I think it's fair to have expectations when it comes to that. When somebody tells you, hey, I want you to participate with my organization in this way, and this is what we stand for, and then I just want to say, keep them accountable, please do. It's hard, but right now, it's like my heart can't stand the thought of people not showing up. So that's it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I know what you're talking about, because I think I saw the comment that you responded to on a post.
Oh man.
But
yes.
yeah,
I know. I wish I could say more, but I am
Yeah.
going to be a grown-up. And
Well,
just
and
take
sometimes being
it to who needs to hear it in person.
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna do some organizing around that, but it's definitely, yeah.
I think that's a good note for everybody, especially in the times that we're living in now, is like, if you're going to stand up and say that you're about something, like, walk the walk, don't just talk the talk, and show it. And that's something personally for us at Hiking My Feelings, like this week we're talking about social media blackouts and all this other stuff, and it's been an internal battle every night to determine whether or not I want to continue doing this campfire, because there are lots of things that are happening in the world, and one of those things is trauma showing up in multiple ways all over this country. And in as much as I feel like it's important to keep showing, like, I feel like it's important to keep showing up for the people in this community, for the people who might find this, who might find healing from it. But yeah, I mean, like, you got to walk the walk and you got to talk the talk. You can't just put up a square and say that you're done. If we're talking about like current events, like, it's been really interesting to see what brands are how they're showing up, if they're showing up.
Mhm.
And we're paying attention. Like as a collective outdoor industry that is inclusivity minded and wants to see more diversity on the trail or on the crag or wherever we're recreating, like everybody's paying attention. Like this is not the time to perform. It's a time to actually show up, and showing up looks different for everybody. Not everybody's equipped to go out in the streets and put their bodies out in harm's way. I live in the sticks. Like when I lived in San Diego, I was a protesting mofo in 2017. Like when it was every week we had a protest in January, like I was out there, I was marching, I was doing it. But like out here in the sticks, that's not, there's no protest to be had. Like we live 20 minutes from our next neighbor. So it's just like, it's a different world, but learning, and this is also a learning experience for a lot of people, especially people that are just now figuring out how they want to stand up and how they want to use their voice. So thank you for holding people accountable. Thank you for that reminder, because that is one of the most important things in life, period, and also in these times. So our next segment is the group gratitude circle, and I always like to invite my guest who's on here to kick us off. So if you're in the Zoom chat and you want to participate in the group gratitude circle, go ahead and pop on your video. I'll call on you as we get going. But Gabaccia, what are you thankful for today?
Oh, I'm grateful for this. I am so grateful for this time to just take a little mental break and have some focus on myself, my dreams, and getting the inspiration from you, Sydney, from Anastasia, from Jenna, and just from everyone's comments on the chat. Like it's just so magical to bring like-minded people together and enable us to grow together. So I'm grateful for that.
Awesome. Thank you. Anastasia, what are you grateful for?
I would definitely say the energy of this evening has just been really magical, like echoing what Gabaccia just said. When you bring people together, it just seems to like amplify this really good energy. I am really overwhelmingly grateful for the amount of support that we've had on our solidarity kula, and that I'm even in a small position to give back in a meaningful way. I think in past lives, I probably was one of those people who was like felt helpless and didn't know what to do. And as a result of that, I was often complacent. And I feel like now I'm able to at least do something. And then I'll say one last thing. I went on a trail run today and I heard this bird singing, and it was like the most magical thing. So I love just still being able to notice like the little magical details of life. Like it's happening all around us, and I hope we don't ever lose touch with that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jenna, what are you thankful for?
I'm thankful for a safe space where I could feel just really safe and comfortable and able to speak freely and to learn from everyone and just to kind of calm down. It's been a really exhausting couple of months. It's been a very exhausting year. And so just a time to be present and connected was really needed.
Good. Yay. Well, thanks for being here. Victoria, what's up with you, girlfriend? You're looking like you're just like so chill, so confident, so content. Like you're just like, hey girl, I'm ready to be grateful. Like what? I love it.
Yeah. Today I'm grateful for the pioneers of my community. It's June, so it's Pride Month. And I'm super grateful for the people who started the gay rights movement, so that I can have the rights that I have today. So
I love that. I'm thankful for them too, because I like everybody and all their rights.
yes, of course.
Vicky, what are you thankful for today?
Yay, rights. I'm grateful. I want to say two things. First of all, I'm grateful for Gabaccia because I super appreciate having more present Latina Chicana women here. Yeah, Michelle and I have been behind the scenes like, yeah, vamos hermanas, you know, so welcome. And it cracks me up that you got your name from Gabaccia. Like that, when I saw your name, that didn't even cross my mind. And when you were telling the story, I was like, shit, that's funny. Anyway, so that's great. And it was so delightful to hear you. So I'm so glad you were here. And the thing I came in grateful for is youth, not my own. But in particular, I was talking to my niece today, and she's very wise, and she sees stuff and she's aware. And so she reached out to me because she was experiencing some frustration just with talking to people who didn't get it. And she, felt like I was, a safe space to vent. And so I'm grateful that she felt that. And I'm grateful that she is who she is. And my other nieces as well. She just happens to be the one I talked to today. So she's on my mind, and I'm excited about the young people and what they're going to accomplish.
I love that. Thanks for being here. Erin, what are you thankful for?
Sorry about my loud computer again. It rained today, and I was really, really grateful for it. I've been stressed about the lack of rain, and it's really incredible just how complex our weather systems are and how quickly they change. So it's incredible just to witness it and how connected I feel to it. But it rained and things are growing, and I'm happy.
And remind me, you're in Massachusetts with your farm, is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. About 30 minutes outside of Boston.
So cool. We'll have to come visit.
Yes, come on over.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Michelle, what are you thankful for?
I'm actually, I know I said this last night, but I'm also thankful for this group tonight. Gabaccia, like sister, Latina. I'm also from San Antonio. My mom's from Monterrey, so we've made so many trips to Monterrey. So I know what you mean about Mexico and the mountains and the outdoors. Anastasia, I also play the violin. I haven't played it in such a long time. And watching you perform, I was just like, oh, I got my itch to play again. So I haven't played in years, but I'm gonna go for it. Jenna, it took me a long time to find the courage and the strength to finally open up about the trauma that I experienced in my past. And I hope that you gather the strength to finally voice the things that you haven't been able to voice. And I'm so grateful today that you're here, because we are all a support system, not only for each other, but for our guests too. So just want you to know that. So that's what I'm grateful for.
Michelle, you're fierce and I fucking love you. God, I love that, because it's true. Like, it's not just about us, like as the Hiking My Feelings family, like all of our guests were like, hey, we got your back. Hey, we got your back. Hey, we got your back. So thank you for voicing that. And let me know when you want to be my next musical guest. And then like you and Anastasia can like collab on some kind of violin thing, and it'll just be like super dope. Mary, what are you thankful for?
Hi. So tonight I am grateful for these people across the street. I don't know if you can see them, but I'm heading across PCH to a peaceful rally in Cardiff. So grateful for the woman who put this on. Tonight specifically dedicated to gun violence, in addition to everything else that's going on. So I'm happy to be here and grateful for them for putting it on. I also played the violin for many years growing up. I have one collecting dust in the closet, and I am determined to pick it up when I get home and start playing. So just the sound of it like sends just the most amazing energy through my body. So And this chapter in particular is super triggering for me, work-wise. So I'm feeling extra grateful to my husband for allowing me to take the last 11 months to recover from just work trauma and figuring out what's next for me, and got some good tips from everyone tonight. So I'm inspired by what all you ladies are doing and can't wait to join you on that path. So
I love that. Okay, so we have like, I don't know, like what do you call like a threesome of violinists? Is there like a name for that?
a
'Cause, like,
trio.
we've got a trio, we've had, or threesome, whatever, it's fine. I nailed it. It's cool. Clearly musically inclined. But fun fact, I don't have a violin anymore, but I played one in 4th grade and I was like pretty good at it until I realized that the boys didn't like the girls that played violin. They liked the cheerleaders. And that's where I like leaned more into my cheerleading side of things. So I would be pretty terrible in your trio, but if you wanted to make it a 4-way, then like we can just like go.
quartet.
It'd be great. Or quartet. You and all your fancy like music terms, it's fine. Oh geez, Jess, what are you thankful for?
Well, first thing is I played violin back in elementary school, but I was so bad, I actually faked playing violin during a recital. Like literally. Yeah. So I sang. So today I am grateful. I've been really serious lately because everything around us is so serious and it's just so hard not to. But this episode really inspired me. Like my chat, I just went crazy in chat earlier because I'm so grateful for all the magic and the manifestations going on in my life right now. And it's hard for me to celebrate because I'm kind of an extreme person. I'm either super humble or like kind of a dick. And on the other side, and I'm really working on that balance thing, you know? So I'm just saying I'm really blessed and I'm shocked and I'm humbled and I'm grateful and all the people that support me and my dreams, and I'm really thankful for the people that didn't support me in my hopes and dreams too, because they're a lot of the motivation there too. Like, you know what? I'm 42 and I'm going to do this thing. And if you don't like it, well, that's just too bad. So I am grateful for all the inspiring people in my life and even the people I have yet to meet that are going to inspire me. So thank you all very much for the magic.
Big love. Jess, God, I love you. And Vicky says in the comments, a veritable violin orgy. You're welcome. Oh my goodness, I love this so much. Laura Bingaman, what are you thankful for?
I am very grateful for the people that have been here tonight, and all along every single one of them that we've had for the virtual campfires that are inspiring me to not give up hope about being able to find a job and have a life.
I love that. And I love you big time.
Love you too.
You're going to get one and it's going to be perfect. That's the thing. If Anna, you hope it's true. If Anastasia's right about anything, and she seems to be one of those people that's right about a lot of things, the fact that it's not here yet doesn't mean that it's bad. It means that the right one's coming. So we just got to trust it. You just got to keep showing up to these things. And then the job's going to like land in your lap. You'll be like, oh, this is why this other ones didn't work out. It's easy. Love you. Is there anybody else that wants to share on the chat? If not, so I mentioned that we are starting our Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love program, and I could tell you why you should sign up, but if anybody that is signed up, which I think like most of you are, wants to share for anybody watching on YouTube or anybody that will find this, why you feel called to join this group, what you're hoping to get out of it, I'd love for you to share that just so I can stop flapping my gums about what we're doing, and maybe they can hear it about some people that have been impacted by the work we've done so far.
Okay, dude, I'm going first on this one.
Okay, nail it.
I raised my hand even so Vicky would let me. So anyways, I signed up for Blaze Your Trail stat. fast, didn't even check Wells Fargo, did it, because Sydney is very available with her time. She is free. She's there to help you. She is down. But after a certain point, I feel kind of greedy. So one of the reasons I signed up for it is to have dedicated mentorship time where we're focusing on one and only one of my goals. That's going to be so hard. And having that encouragement and that accountability that I really need in my life, and just a guide, like a trail guide, as it were. And that's a great segue into the other reason I signed up, because I'm going to Catalina in September and hiking the Trans Catalina Trail. And I've been working from home, sitting on my butte for quite a few months. And I've done a few hikes, but they hurt. The last one didn't hurt as much as the one before that, but I need more guidance on that tip too. How do I get from here to here to here? So I'm there for the mentorship. I'm there for the support of all the other members that are going to be in there, because that is powerful. And yeah, I'm here to support Sydney and hiking my feelings.
I love that. And on that note, before the next person speaks up, when Jenna and Anastasia were talking about showing up and just like creating, like visualizing yourself in this thing and like going the extra mile, I did want to make a note, because as a nonprofit organization, as I'm sure Anastasia can attest to, we're so busy that we don't have, our minds are so occupied on things that are very important to the business that sometimes it's hard to think about where we can let go of stuff or where we need support. So Jess, I just want to take a moment to call you out and say thank you for the way that you've showed up for us, where you're just like, here's money, I'm going to buy books, and then I'm going to go take them to these different centers where people need to hear this message. Here's an ad. Like, I know you guys can't afford advertising. I'm going to write a blog post about this and I'm going to do the ad. Like, to just show up and deliver and not make me think about it and not ask me how you can help. Like, everybody asking how they can help is 100% appreciated. And also, the most impactful way to help is to just show up and bring it. And I gotta thank you for that, because it has made my life monumentally easier. And also just like, it's way more fun to connect in this way. Cause like every morning, Jess is like, good morning, we have people from Poland, Germany, like viewing this ad, reading this blog post. And I'm like, thank you. Like, that's so kind. And I know not everybody has the resources to do that. Not everybody has the skills to offer in that way. But if you do, and you want to be part of something, just show up and ask the leader how, like, give an idea, and then we can like say yes or no. But it makes my brain have more space to do this work and hold this space, rather than thinking about the things that I can't do that I wish I could. So thank you. I appreciate you.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Mm-hmm. Vicky, you were gonna duke it out with Jess to raise your hands. I don't know. There might be a fist fight. I don't know.
I go first a lot just so nobody else has to. You know, I know it's scary for people. So if nobody else will do it, I will do it, you know, and it's a similar phenomenon that, you know, has me being the first one to go with the stop sign if everybody's just sitting there saying, you go, no, you go. So anyway, I am not exaggerating when I say that hiking my feelings has been an absolutely indispensable part of my personal, I'm going to use the word recovery, this past year. For those of you who don't know, I went through an incredibly painful divorce and was, you know, this big a year ago, and just have come so far. And Sydney and Hiking My Feelings has, you know, I've referred to her as part of my wellness team. And yeah, like I said, I'm not exaggerating. And I am still going through this journey, and I am still learning who I am. And Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love is just my next step.
Thank you. I love you. Anybody else want to fight about it, or are we done here? Michelle, go first, and then Victoria.
Okay. As the majority of you witnessed on Monday, I spoke about my story of sexual assault. I had never spoken about that out loud in the details that I gave to anyone except close friends and family. And I was never able, I know I needed to deal with it, but I couldn't find the group that I guess I fit into. Like I know those organizations and groups everywhere, but it just didn't, you didn't feel that comfort. You didn't feel, it was just a different type of vibe. And I was just like, eh. But due to this quarantine, I went back to reading. I came across your book because I was looking on books about hiking. I read about your sexual assault and I was like, she likes hiking, I like hiking. She was sexually assaulted, I was sexually assaulted. She's speaking up, I'm not. And that's a problem. And I know that me speaking out is a way for me to heal and a way for me to maybe be the voice of somebody else that doesn't have yet the strength to voice what happened to them. So thanks to this book and thanks to this group, I finally got the strength to say it out loud. And not only to this group, but it's on YouTube. So now people know everything that happened to me. And I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I'm not ashamed of it anymore because of this group, because of this book. And it has felt so good. It's been painful, but it's at the end one of those that you're just like relieved that it's finally out. And I'm like, damn, this feels good. I want more. I need to get better.
Right.
I want to talk and you know, maybe encourage somebody to speak out. And I haven't signed up, but I'm signing up as soon as we end like the Zoom call, because I know that this is my group and this is where I can actually talk about my feelings and people have my back. So thank you.
Yes, we do. Thank you. Yes, we do. We got your back like you wouldn't believe. Victoria.
So Jenna, I also found Sydney on the She Explores podcast. So granted, it took me a couple years to start kind of my healing process, and I feel like I kind of used quarantine to kind of take the express train down that rabbit hole. But so when I heard your interview, Sydney, like I've never felt so understood and not alone in my life. And I finally kind of was able to realize that some of the trauma that I had started to kind of make sense of my life or whatever. So on this process for me, I'm realizing, yes, I'm kind of in charge of my own fate, but I can't always go this alone. And I can engage my community and I can reach out and ask for help. And knowing that I'm not alone in this is the most empowering thing that I can think of right now.
You're not alone. Look at all these happy faces. This isn't even everybody. This is going to be so dope. I'm so excited. Is it June 28th yet? Oh my God, guys, I can't. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. And also, so Jennifer is unable to join the gratitude circle, but she said she's really grateful for these amazing conversations again tonight. Everyone has shared something special that I have noted about in my journal. So that is awesome. So if there's nobody else that has anything else to share, then we're going to bounce on the YouTube and we'll stick around here for the post-show Zoom chat. So a little housekeeping stuff. Tomorrow we have Aaron Strout, who is one of my mentors. He's been my mentor for forever. He's also the third board member of the Hiking My Feelings Board of Directors, and he's the Chief Marketing Officer at W2O Group, which is the agency that I used to work with. We also have Carlos Barus, who is the leader and founder of Everyone's Hike. So he has, and also the Dodger Blue hiking group. He leads hikes, or when he was still in Southern California, he's up in NorCal now, but when he was still in Southern California, he would take out like hundreds of people for hikes at a time. And like they'd go do the Brand Motorway, where it's a big fire access road and it's just like, it's like 2 lanes wide. It might as well be a freeway on a mountain. This light looks so dope right now, by the way. So Carlos will be here tomorrow to talk about his big group hikes. And we also have MJ from Walk Shop, who we met Mark, her business partner, on episode 1, the first Campfire. And MJ is the CEO of Walk Shop, and they take out different executives from different industries out on backpacking trips to disconnect from the Wi-Fi, reconnect with themselves, and just really hone in, tune in, and start thinking in more innovative ways as they exhaust their bodies and like clear their heads. So really excited to have MJ here tomorrow. They're one of our sponsors. They got on early and we love them and we're so grateful for their support. So that's what we got going on tomorrow. If you haven't yet donated and you'd like to, if you're watching on YouTube and you're like, wow, this looks like so much fun. I've been watching this for 10 days. Maybe I should get in on this for realsies and get in this Zoom chat so I can feel these vibes. You can get tickets to join the Zoom chats at hikingmyfeelings.org/campfire. We offer day passes, all access pass, and VIP all access pass, which we have 5 of the virtual campfire kits left. So if you're interested in getting the treasure chest of all the great things from our partners and sponsors, definitely sign up for that. If you're watching and you're like, wow, I learned so much tonight, I can't come ever again, but I definitely want to throw these people a few dollars, then you can do that at hikingmyfeelings.org/give. And as a reminder, this whole fundraiser for the Hiking My Feelings Wilderness Wellness Center, 80% of the proceeds go to us. And then we've reserved 10% of the proceeds to go to the American Diabetes Association and 10% to go to RAIN, which is the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. So both of those organizations are causes that are near and dear to my heart. The ADA is on a mission to improve the lives of people living with diabetes, type 1, type 2, and pre-diabetes, and to find a cure. And RAIN obviously has tremendous resources for survivors of sexual assault. So if you're watching, if you've been reading the book and you're feeling feelings about that thing that happened that one time and you're not sure if it was assault or not, chances are it probably was because you're thinking about it. When you're ready to talk about it and have a conversation and get support, RAIN is a great first step. They have tons of resources. They operate a hotline where you can call and get support. They also have an online chat. If talking to a human is not your jam right now, that's totally fine. Their chat is great. And they also have a survivor like chat room. So while you're waiting to talk to a representative from RAIN, you can also be in the chat with other survivors that are, working through things as well. So thank you so much for all of your support. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you to our guests, Anastasia, Jenna, Gabaccia. Love you so much. Thank you for bringing your energy and your knowledge and all of your wonderful power to this chat. The vibes have been good tonight. So on YouTube, we're going to peace out. Everybody wave bye. And for the people in the Zoom chat, we're going to say, hey-o, and we'll hang out for a little bit.